Faleminderit gjithë që keni ardhur. Prezantimi I parë për natën e sotme që kanë qenë mas kësaj ligjërate dhe Ivan Kucina edhe Antoine Wilburn nga Get Foundation është Elisa Brusegan dhe Massimo Triches nga Babau. Këta njëri nga creatives të zgjedhur, njëri nga Future Architecture Platform Young Creatives që janë përzgjedhur në ciklin e fundit. Për pas ligjëratës janë duke mbajt edhe një punëtori me traces, në siguri disa për juve edhe në pjesë saj. Keni më pa edhe një inqizim interesant, një punëtori realisht realizume nga ara e tyre që kena dashur me realizuar në Prishtinë, po ka qenë problem ndoshta pak me zgjedhë lokacionin, kështu që kena vendosur traces me u pa zgjatë shumë, kisha pas dëshirë me ftu. Elisa, Massimo Triches.
Good evening, everybody. We are Massimo and Elisa. We are part of a group of architects based in Venice. Some of us, Marco and Stefano, couldn't be here, but as a group we are very thankful to all the Kosovo Architecture Foundation staff for having this opportunity to develop a bit a part of our research, because our approach to the project is always to join research and project. And one of the themes we are interested on is the perception of architectural space. Because we notice that it is sometimes not so accessible to everybody, not so readable for everybody. During the 20th century, a lot of books, theories and drawings taught us how architecture should be designed in terms of dimensions, of diagrams, functions. And by doing this, they create a sort of modern standard that we all know. One of the most famous is the modular, conceived by Babau. It was very successful, but as we can see from all the drawings, it also shows an utopia, the utopia of a perfect human being. So it refers to a sort of dichotomy between normality and abnormality. Even today, this frame is often used by architects in practice without really questioning the concept behind it. Without admitting the possibility of changing it or criticizing it. For example, we can consider also The Architect's Data by Ernst Neuffer, a book written in 1936 during Bauhaus. Over time, it has been constantly improved, and it still carries the desire for standards, the desire expressed by modernism. So, in first hypothesis, we basically have a culture which reduces people to model. As a provocation, we can also say that if we assume a different reference system, human shape will be different. On the left, we have the elephant man, considered a problem, an abnormal being. And on the right, Graham, which is a recent prototype, model artificially shaped to perfectly resist to car crash. So the culture of the machine, of this extreme technology, let us think that human beings can evolve differently in relation to the machine standard. And in the same direction, in this direction, Graham would also be the extreme result of the machine utopia of Hilbersheimer city. But if we change reference system, standards change too. From the Hilbersheimer city, the vertical city with 100% architecture and zero nature, to, for instance, a Boeri forest city with 100% nature, if we consider nature this, and zero architecture. So for us the point is not to change the standard, but to change the perception mode of the space. Standardized architecture has shown its limits, and perfect bodies don't exist outside of models. And why should they exist? Spaces in where we live still appear inadequate to welcome the diversity or the disability, and the body is not standard. It is sometimes tall, small, fat, thin. Going deeper, going inside, the human body suggests other scales. Our body, with all these differences, is reactive in front of the space in different ways. A blind man cannot watch, but he has good skills in touch and hearing. A child is not tall, but he can appreciate the world from another point of view. Our design ideas as architects are often inspired by the eye. We still use the power of the image, the predominance of the view. We use the eye to evaluate the project, to make decisions. But what if we rethink the modular, the standard, in relation to other dimensions, as the touch or the taste? Such a variety of feelings that the norm, the rule, cannot and do not want to report. Definitely we can't measure reality only our presumed normality, because reality is more elusive and we need new ways to perceive it. Now we will show you an accessibility prototype we recently realized in the north part of Italy, the Camonica Valley, famous for its rocks engravings. It was entitled the first UNESCO site in Italy in 1979. And I was, as I told the students, really surprised, because I thought that the first UNESCO site was, I don't know, Venice or Rome, but actually it was this prehistoric site. Here, hundreds of symbols are carved in the rocks, nestled in this natural mid-mountainous environment, in these woods. They deal with spiritual aspects and moments of daily life. For instance, here we can see a very interesting representation of the housings of these people. It is a section drawings which show us not only the architecture, its element, its proportion, but only the activities that are going on inside. And this was the project that maybe show us this need for study the theme of perception in architecture, and to make a space very readable, if not for all, for as many people as possible. So Massimo, we will tell you more about the project.
Yes, good evening to everybody. In this project, the important thing for us before this project is that in every research or every analysis that we try to do, as architects, we try to measure every consideration working with some projects. And it's something that also in the lecture of yesterday we could appreciate. So it's important for all the students and for all of us to understand that we work with projects that could be objects, could be buildings, could be landscape project, books, but we have a project in our mind and with that we could study and analyze the context and all the various aspects. So it's a really strength instrument to do research. In this case, this is the Camonica Valley, and we could see in purple all the areas involved in the UNESCO heritage protection. So there are a lot of different sites divided mostly by the different municipality who manage different areas. We work in one of the smallest one, that is the Ceto, Cimbergo e Paspardo area, and specifically in an area that is about 1,000 meters over the sea level, and is like we see in the cross near the village of Paspardo, connected to a provincial road that connect all the different other villages. This is the area, but a step backward is that the community decide to do, it's not a competition, but a selection of 5 different young, or more or less young, offices or architects in Italy who has to work in relation with the owners of the different areas and with different association or cooperative working with communities of disabled people. This because 2 years ago a famous writer and journalist Italian came here to visit and have a lot of problem who have problem of mobility and is in wheelchair. He had a lot of problems to visit the most known rock that is in another area, but you have to imagine like this screen more or less repeated for 4 times in length, full of these signs. This is a really precious, really treasure about this area, but was really humiliating for the community. Cannot show all his heritage to everybody. So they started to think about how we can solve this problem, or we can make at least a part of this heritage accessible to everybody. So we work in this area that already have some possibilities, because there is this street that we see, there is a quite huge parking area in this part, so you could come here and park, you see in the section, and near there is also a little, but there is an helicopter parking, so you could arrive there also by the helicopter. So when we arrived here, we started to think, but where start the right of the man and where start the right of the ambient, the environment, of the nature of the world? Because we ask to ourselves also the thematic of is right to make every part of the world accessible. For example, I cannot go on the top of Everest, not because I cannot walk, but my body is not trained to arrive there. And if I want to go there, an helicopter has to bring me there, or a street. So maybe this is dangerous for the environment. So we also want to protect not only the right of all the people, but also, in a way, the right of the landscape. And in this area, the landscape have a strong power, because we are in the top of a mountain, or quite on the top of the mountain, looking at the beautiful valley, and inside a really beautiful wood. We look to these photos that there is the parking area, and there is already a path that can allow us, I return there, to arrive in this part. This is the first rock, and those are the other rock that they are accessible, but they want to improve the accessibility. This is more or less 80 meters length, with a difference of level about 3 meters more or less. So the possibility already exists. There are one little, I never remember in English the word, but it's cordolo in Italiano. It's like a little wall that make the difference between a part and another one, like in the city, for example. It's like 10 centimeter wide. And they built it, they explain, in order to allow the blind man to walk, helping with the stick. But we make some trying with this, that is the owner of the park, and these 2 guys that are the guys of the community. And Giovanni, a blind young guy, came with us and tried to do this walk, and was really, really difficult. Imagine yourself walking in a wood with your eyes closed is really, really difficult. So we analyze all the potentiality of the place and what our project could improve. And we analyze it from the senses, human senses point of start. The touch, the hearing, the view, and the motoricity, the mobility. And for the beginning, we start to think how can we work with all these senses, and the first one we thought about was hearing inside this project. So this is like a little concept that we like so much because it's the section of the ear, but it could represent also a lot of other stuff like a path, like a cave, like a space, a sculpture. So our idea were going behind the first view and try to give different meanings about the stuff. So we create this prototype that is hand-helping element that follow all these little wall path and allow to other people to help if they need and make them walk more safety, more sure, more comfortable for all the develop of this element. And at the end there is a strange element that indicate the place of the first rock. So as we can see in the other concept, there is the parking area, something that feel our presence and something that switch on in the other way. And in all this blue line you could walk without any problem or any dangerous. And in the last part, we work with that element that is an instrument, an analogical instrument, reproducing the sound of the people who are making the incision in those rocks. That is something like that, stone against stone. And is not a digital sound made by a telephone, for example, an acoustic instrument, but is analogic because we want also that the sound could come not only with the ear, but also for the people who are touching this system, because you can feel those vibrations. So this was the first idea. And also, if we think that inside the landscape is not adding a lot of object, because there is only one line that follow the existence one. We arrange it working with some linear elements and other curves, of course, and making like a change and using, as I said you, this element in order to give all the pillars to sustain this element. And we change the material in the curve parts and also in the linear parts, because it's something that also for the people, everybody who wants to take and touch this element could feel the difference of this, no? of the silhouette, of the path, and also of the materials of these elements. And at the end, it was our bell, in a way, that we designed differently than what they done at the end, but I like more than the realization than our project in this case, because it's more ironic, it's more strange, it's more surprising. I feel like I found a mushroom, a strange mushroom here inside the wood. And inside this element there is this system that give this impression. So communicate to all the people that in that position there is this rock, and give you the idea of reminds you a past landscape in which the people are doing these signs for all the community. So it's like an emotion that we think that is more important than a panel that inform you that in this place there is the rock between, I don't know, 2,000 years ago. With that, those are information that you could have with an app in your mobile, or maybe in museum that is 2 kilometers from there. And another little but is important stuff that we add to this project is in order to give other sensation and with the touch, we choose to create, as I say you, two different type of materials. The metal one for the curve that allow us also to make this curve part, and the concrete part for the linear ones. But in some of these ones, we reproduce with the people of the community some drawings that is an interpretation about the incision, the presence in the rock made by the community who work with us, in order to see not only the past incision but also these ones that are contemporary, but they are a sign of the community, nowadays community, in this landscape. Maybe before then going ahead with the presentation, we present you a little, very short video in order to give you more or less the idea of what happened in this place.
We basically try to activate a narrative into the space in order to, as we said before, to reach as many people as possible through many senses as possible. And it is also the theme we are trying to develop here during the workshop that is going on during this week. Trying to add in as small pieces to this research on the perception of space. The theme in this case is that architectural space is communicated through drawing, especially through drawings. But as drawings become technical, also the language becomes more difficult. And so people have understandably differences to understand all the qualities of the space. We are trying to solve this problem, joining the human scale and the drawing. That is to say, reproducing some architectural object in a one-to-one scale in order to make the man very near to the drawing and to the space he evocates. Here there are some examples from other offices. This is an example from Norway. This is another example in Argentina, made by the students in the Rosario University. And the interesting thing is that traces has always been a very fundamental tool of man over times, and when it is a drawing is reproduced in a one-to-one scale, it also acquires a sort of geographical dimension. This is another example going on in Italy, in the west part, in Genova, trying to reproduce, to really design a space by drawing it on a public place. Through traces, we are always try to find new rules and way to to move through the space, to cross the street, to also play a game. And the photo on the right is taken here in Pristina. These are common games we found here in Pristina and also in Italy. Through drawing on the ground, we can also have a sort of theater, a scene, a play going on. And as I said, people over times use traces to reproduce images, to measure the space. So even in these examples, we are taken from the prehistory. Even if we can maybe not call exactly architecture, but we can find the basic tool of the architects. Proportion, dimension, scale, figures, composition. And during the workshop, we want to use these same tools to activate new narratives in the space. And the challenge of this workshop, but all the festival, I think, is also to question us with this question: how is the limit between text and architecture? So, for instance, the ruins. This is a Roman city in Nigeria. Are architecture, or are only a text telling about architecture? The construction side, so all the sticks and the strategies to construct the building are already an architectural space, or are a text. And basically, we are working in the square, which is outside the Armata Theatre, and trying to reproduce in a one-to-one scale another architecture, which is an Italian one, a very iconic one. We can say it is a villa from Palladio, maybe you know. And this space, it is very used by people through, even with the game, but especially by children. So it's very integrated into the city. And we want to test if reproducing someone else on it, we can not only communicate architecture or some qualities of an architectural icon as the Villa Rotonda by Palladio, but also to activate new synergies, new uses, new rules into this urban space. So if you can see how the result of this small test are going on, you are pleased to join us during the next days in front of the